I think he made a terrible mistake. I suspect he was pressured by his mother to make that mistake. If he had fought that case, I believe he would have won. I believe the case would have been dismissed on a variety of grounds, but he didn't want to sit through a deposition, or people around him didn't want to sit through a deposition. And so he settled the case. Often you settle cases not because you're guilty of what you're charged, but because you don't want to admit other things that you've done. The reason I was willing to fight is I led a completely clean life. The only woman I've had sex with the day I met Jeffrey Epstein has been my wife. So I welcome the deposition. Ask me anything you want about my sex life. The answer will always be the same. My wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, and only my wife. So I don't have to resolve any cases. They can question me all they want. Other people have other things to hide. Maybe they're not guilty of the alleged offense, but they might be embarrassed about other things.
So your reaction to this, Alan, I mean, this is another batch of documents unsealed. They contain claims that have not been tested in court, but they are quite striking claims about sex tapes involving Prince Andrew, Richard Branson, and Bill Clinton.
Well, first, the new revelations contain a smoking gun series of tapes that prove how I was framed. A British journalist named Sharon Churchill, who was working for a British tabloid, wrote a letter to Virginia Giuffre, an email. We have the email, it's been disclosed now, saying even though there's no proof that Dershowitz did anything wrong, name him, put him in the book. It'll help you sell your book. He's famous. He represented Klaus von Bülow. They made a movie about him. So put him in the book. And so she puts me in the book as somebody she did not have sex with, but somebody she just saw with Jeffrey Epstein. So that's the smoking gun. The other smoking gun are the emails by this woman named Ransom, who has written like 30 or 40 emails to a journalist from the New York Post, in which she said she has sex tapes of Hillary Clinton, of Donald Trump, of Richard Branson having sex with underage people. She then admitted that she made the whole thing up. So what we're seeing now for the first time are exculpatory emails. We're seeing emails that cast doubt on the credibility of the accusations. Up to now, the disclosures have mostly been accusations, but now we're seeing the full picture. We're seeing the frame-ups, we're seeing the fake arguments, we're seeing the contrived and false accusations. So the full picture is beginning to emerge. That's why from day one, I wanted every document released, and why last Thursday I filed a new motion saying not enough. We want more documents released. We want everything, not only the accusations, but the admissions. In my case, the woman who accused me has now publicly admitted that she may have confused me with someone else, that it may have been a mistake of identification, and that obviously I am totally innocent. That's the implication of when she says she may have made a mistake in identifying me. So I'm glad that everything is coming out, because they prove what I've been saying from day one. I did absolutely.
And yet there's still. Yeah, and yet, Alan, it's being reported. I mean, it's striking that you say that. These aren't being reported as exculpatory, nothing to do with you, to do with Andrew, to do with Clinton, to do with Branson. It's basically being reported, yes, these claims exist against them. So while there may be no proof of them, and as you're saying, the context may be that this has never happened at all, the way this comes out is, look, further claims against these guys.
Well, but you look deeply and you'll see that the further claims raise real questions about the credibility of the accusers. For example, Sarah Ransom has admitted that she made up these stories. Why should anybody believe her? My accuser has said she may have mistaken me for someone else, but for 8 years continued to accuse me. And remember, she's the same person who accused Prince Andrew. So the media has to look at the other side of the story, the dark side of the moon, the side that hasn't been revealed. The major disclosures are not the accusations. They were made before. It's the exculpatory material that's in these documents that hasn't been revealed, but the media is not interested in them, because the media wants gossip and they want stories, but they don't want the disproof, because that ruins their story.
Does this go so far, though, in your view, as to cast doubt upon the two central figures in all of this? Epstein, who killed himself in suspicious circumstances, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who is, of course, a convicted felon now appealing it. Can we separate out the likely guilt of those two characters alongside the desire to bring in a whole raft of other very famous people into their circle?
Well, when credibility is questioned, it's questioned about everything. Look, there can be very little doubt of Epstein's culpability. He admitted it. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts. Ghislaine Maxwell is different. Her case is on appeal now. But I think the main point is these headlines all over the world are not about Epstein and Maxwell. They're about Clinton. They're about Branson. They're about me. They're about Prince Andrew. They're about other people. And it's the credibility of the accusers against some of these other people that has now been challenged by these emails, particularly the smoking gun email in my case, where it shows how the frame up began and why it began. Now the very woman, Sharon Churcher, has now said she believes that I was completely innocent. But nonetheless, she did suggest that my name be put into this, and that's caused me and my family enormous grief.
But you never settled with her or anybody else. And the fact of the matter remains with Andrew, I suppose, Prince Andrew, is that he settled. He made an offer to the woman who made claims about him, Virginia Giuffre, and people, I presume, are still entitled to read something into that, aren't they? I mean, there is a settlement there. I mean, it wasn't an acceptance of guilt, but it's a settlement nonetheless.
Well, I think he made a terrible mistake. I suspect he was pressured by his mother to make that mistake. If he had fought that case, I believe he would have won. I believe the case would have been dismissed on a variety of grounds, but he didn't want to sit through a deposition, or people around him didn't want to sit through a deposition. And so he settled the case. Often you settle cases not because you're guilty of what you're charged, but because you don't want to admit other things that you've done. The reason I was willing to fight is I led a completely clean life. The only woman I've had sex with the day I met Jeffrey Epstein has been my wife. So I welcome the deposition. Ask me anything you want about my sex life. The answer will always be the same. My wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, and only my wife. So I don't have to resolve any cases. They can question me all they want. Other people have other things to hide. Maybe they're not guilty of the alleged offense, but they might be embarrassed about other things.
Do you feel sorry for Prince Andrew, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel sorry for him? Do you feel sorry for Bill Clinton?
I feel sorry for Prince Andrew for this reason. Assuming everything they say about him is correct, assuming everything, the woman who accused him was over the age of consent. She apparently bragged about it to her friends, and she collected millions and millions of dollars for that. Yeah, I feel sorry for him.
And where does this end? Do you think this is a story that will get rewritten as history develops, or will it always be, look, here are these claims about these powerful people, and with the implication that there's no smoke without fire?
Well, I'm out there fighting it day after day because I'm the only one who can fight it. Because again, I have nothing to hide. So I fight, and I hope I will help expose some of the problems with the accusations. And from day one, I have never refused to answer a question about this. And I have always asked for the disclosure of every document, every piece of evidence in the Maxwell versus Giuffre case. And I'm now asking for even more. So as long as I'm around and pushing hard, I don't want this to end. I want it to continue. People say to me all the time, well, it'll go away. I don't want it to go away. As long as there's an accusation out there that one person believes, I want to make sure I can disprove it beyond any doubt.
And you can say very clearly, as you have done, that when it comes to someone makes a claim about you, have you had sex with anybody other than your wife in the last few years? You can say no.
No, that's right. And I stand by that.
Alan Dershowitz, great to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us.